I think I initially spoke to you, we were deep in COVID. That must have been 2020 or so. For some reason, I was at work. I shouldn't have been, but anyway, I was at work. And we were talking about your game Doba Dash at that time. So yeah, today we just want to chat to you a little more about, a few years down the line, you've created you got a sort of a stable, at that time it wasn't stable, but you've now created a stable game development studio. You've got a team around you, you've got some funding. So yeah, maybe just tell us a little more about yourself and your opening into.
He's got funding.
Yeah, we're going to talk about. Yeah, we're gonna talk about it. So yeah, maybe just give us an intro about yourself and your early introduction into games and your decision to get into the scene.
Sweet, thanks, Scott. Yeah, so where do I start? Okay, so for me, I feel so old right now.
Wow! Don't expose your age, man.
You're still very young to me. Man.
I actually was on a King TV show, and the kids were hosting the show, and they kept calling me uncle, and I was like, damn, my niece and nephew don't even call me uncle.
Damn.
So it was like it burned. But yeah, so my story, how I started this company or went into game design, pretty interesting. So I've always wanted to tell stories from a very young age, and I wasn't even exposed to gaming until I was in high school. So I got my first PlayStation when I was in high school, but I used to play mobile games on my mom's phone or my dad's phone. That was my genesis, playing games on Gameloft, your Prince of Persia, those type of games. But I always used to play with my toys and create stories around that. And I've always wanted to tell stories that people can engage with beyond my toys or beyond any other medium that I had access to at the time. But also I had a problem because when I was in high school, we were picking careers, and I wanted to do architecture because I thought that would get me respect in the family and stuff. In black homes, you get chicken at funerals if you rank higher instead. So I was chasing that. But my marks weren't that good.
You didn't want the salad at the funeral.
I didn't want the salad. Or stand in line. I wanted to go in the house and get a plate, But so I was like, okay, how do I do it without the marks, And I started learning more about animation. I also was a big animation fan. I grew up on Disney. Still a fan of Lion King till this day, and Tarzan. But
Tarzan?
Yeah, I used to work on my...
I like that.
My fingers. Nice. Yeah, it's wild. Yeah. And then I learned a lot about animation, and the guys at City Varsity came to our school, and they was giving out they portfolio on the courses and stuff. And I saw animation is a bit of architecture because you can model or build buildings. Yeah, it's actually maybe I could do that, and then somewhere down the line I could maybe tap into the architecture space. And then I'll be hitting two birds with one stone because I'll be doing an animation and game design, which is the story element that I'm passionate about, and I can hopefully down the line do an architecture. And then I went into gaming and animation. I studied that, and I learned more about gaming and how to make games. And I realized that actually this is where it's at. There's no other medium or platform that can tell stories quite as good as game design, because you can fully immerse your players and create paths for them to choose, and it gives them so much depth, unlike any other medium out there, And then that's where it started. And then fast forward to when 2018, 2019, I got a call from a friend of mine who was like, yo man, there's this big opportunity. I just got back from Germany, doing my own
got back
games.
from Germany?
Yeah, so I was working with the Goethe on the project that they were working on, and then they flew us out to promote this game. And they were come through, this opportunities once in a lifetime. You can start your own business, you'll get funding for this business, and you can make games. They're looking for the next big gaming studio, and we're incubated at Simologong 2019, and it was crazy, man. High intensity, high pressure situation. The team was big. There was 7 of us, and we broke down into 5. I always say this, the team got smaller, but the vision got clearer.
Right.
And we were able to form what you see now as Space Center Studios, and the name came about because of how big the team was. We were different creatives, so they were looking at building the next big gaming studio, but there weren't any black game designers at the time, or they could find,
Nice.
and they had to find other people in the creative space, and that's why they looked out for me, because I was the known game designer at the time. We wanted to create out of this world content with the
Right.
different creatives that were in, and that's where the name Space Salad came about.
An interesting name, Space Salad.
Yeah, a lot of
Is
people
there salad in space, or is there space in the salad?
you can play around with both. From the name, I recently
Right.
learned that they're growing salad in space.
Ooh,
So
okay.
yeah, but that's how the name came about.
An interesting name.
So yeah, I mean, I agree with you in terms of the immersion of games. I mean, these days I don't play as many games as I would like. It's just that's an adulting thing and a time thing, I guess. But nevertheless, I'm still very interested in games.
For sure.
And my interest in games was, it's kind of like the best medium for just combining so many different forms of storytelling. So there's the multimedia elements. Of course, I've got a background in multimedia. So there's storytelling, there's writing, there's really good, beautiful visuals, but there's also really interesting technical aspects that get involved with the gameplay. Like, immersion is really interesting. And that's kind of partly why I'm interested in the space so much, and that's why I'm interested so much in the XR space as well, because the guys doing work in there are also just kind of on the edge. They're combining so many different aspects of what's available to them from a storytelling perspective, from like production perspective, from technical perspectives. I mean, these guys are what you call creative technologists, and I'm always really impressed by creative technologists because they do stuff I definitely can't. But I would. It's just really interesting talking to them because they're kind of on the edge, and that leads you into my next issue. So there's a project I chatted to you about. Must have been last year. Poo Weekly.
Yeah.
POO.
Wait, what?
POO. It's like, well, we say Poo Weekly, but it's point of order, right?
Yeah.
And what was interesting
The
about
names
it
you come
was,
up in these games.
and I'll give you a chance to just kind of tell us more about that particular project. But I was interested in because I was in a space where I wanted to do more writing about games, local guys doing games. But there's often not a story around it. Like okay, people are making games. Okay, fine, whatever. I was working in like a national paper at the time, so it was like, what was the context for me to actually be writing about this particular game. But your ideas about storytelling that you just brought into it, which was that Poo Weekly it kind of touched on a particular mood of the time, which was an election year. You had like all our politicians as characters in the game. But interestingly, you also partnered with a very nationally famous or well-known political cartoonist, Zapiro.
Yes.
And there's a bit of a story around that. And I like those kind of collaborations in the sense you've got guys that don't normally work in games getting involved with guys making games.
For
Maybe you
sure.
tell us a little more about that, how that came about, or...
Dope. Poo Weekly, which is an acronym for Point of Order, just to clear things up. And
Point of order.
Yeah, Point of Order. And
Yes, Chair.
I'm sure you can already make the connection.
To the parliament.
Yeah, so it was a response to the elections, and more so a response to the decline in youth voters.
Right.
The youth doesn't vote anymore for various reasons, and we wanted to create something that connects with the youth and also informs them about politics, their political leaders, and kind of encourages them to vote, because we wanted to create a product that creates empathy for our leaders, because it's easy for us on the ground to say, these guys are not doing enough.
Right.
But we don't understand what it takes, or the decisions that they make might work for me, but might not work for you, even though we voted for the same guy. So we created this game called Poo Weekly, which is a 2D beat 'em up game.
Who what?
2D beat 'em up.
What is beat 'em up?
Like Cadillacs and Dinosaurs. I don't know if you remember the game, Mustafa.
Street Fighter.
Oh.
Yeah.
Damn.
So you pick your favorite political leader.
Okay.
And then you pick a policy. You choose between two policies. So for the demo that we built,
Sure.
you have to choose between load shedding. Oh, it's a power crisis and a South African power crisis. And you have to choose between renewable energy or coal mining to generate electricity. And each whatever decision you make, or whatever policy you pick, you face the monsters or the enemies of that specific policy.
Oh.
And
So Julius Malema would go coal, Helen Ziller would go green energy?
Well, you can mix and match. It doesn't matter
Right.
who you choose.